In today's security landscape, more things are always required. More tools, more visibility, more staff, and more costs. Security requires all the things and provides very little tangible in return, except a good night's sleep and the avoidance of a business disaster. Sadly, quantifying the avoidance of a business disaster is tough, so cybersecurity professionals don't get many pats on the back. Security can be a thankless job, and asking your team to be on call or put in an overnight shift to monitor alerts adds to the stress. Let's talk about how you might be able to bolster your security posture and ease up on your team without breaking your budget. Hi, I'm Steve Murphy. I'm a vice president at ARG, and while I work for ARG, this video is my own and does not represent the views or opinions of my employer. This channel is dedicated to helping IT leaders make great business decisions. Before COVID-19 changed how businesses operate, IT security was concentrated on a stack of production machines and a workforce that needed access to those machines. Standard strategy was to build a perimeter around the larger concentrations of services and users. Think of the traditional castle and moat, where users and machines work and live. A protective ring against intruders surrounds the vital resources. This strategy worked as long as the systems and offices that needed protection were finite in number and relatively static in nature. The few remote or mobile users were armed with VPNs that allowed secure access back into the protected perimeter. Once inside, these remote users were generally treated as an internal user. The focus was on building out security posture that addressed the concentrated masses and forcing any user outside the central location back into the stack to be treated like any other user. Now, I'm using the past tense in the description here, but the truth is most organizations still operate this way. The strategy was operationally efficient, but limited flexibility. Still, the trade-off was made to create efficient platforms that addressed the bulk of the users. The inconvenience imposed upon the remote users was considered a necessary sacrifice. Now that we're through the pandemic, it's easy to see that we're not returning to the environment where the castle and moat strategy is effective. Workers are not returning to the office full-time, maybe ever. In fact, my vision of the office of the future is virtual, where employees will participate in an online work environment that fosters the collaboration, team building, and mentoring of the traditional workspace, but allows workers to work from anywhere. And through the use of augmented reality, workers will be able to sit at desks, drop into offices, and meet at the water cooler, all while working from their homes. The traditional brick and mortar office building will, in my opinion, become more of an event space for occasional in-person meetings. Not only are employees going to continue to work remotely on a regular basis, but the compute stack has largely been moved out of the private data center into the cloud. If your organization has not begun that move yet, I can bet it's actively being discussed. We've seen a decade of IT evolution in just 2 short years, and many of these moves were made without full establishment of a new IT security strategy. Deep knowledge of the new environment is still lacking in most organizations, and visibility across the enterprise is poor. Controls over machines, applications, and users are looser than most care to admit. Now, to further complicate IT situation, the Great Resignation is depriving IT teams of talent. I've seen firsthand from clients how virtually an entire IT organization has turned over in just a single year. If the replacement staff where companies have actually been able to find replacements have generally been less experienced and certainly lack the historical background within an organization. Companies without a strong documentation platform are at a significant disadvantage in these circumstances. Anyway, I'm getting off track. I think we can all agree that the Great Resignation has weakened IT organizations on the whole, and security operations in particular. It's rare that organizations can hire staff with the specific skills of former employees, so the staffing gap is made more significant due to an associated skills gap. Lastly, there is another skills gap in the new cloud services your organization might have migrated to. These platforms generally offer their own security tools, but they're unfamiliar to even the most experienced technician on your team. Now, new tools are requiring new skills and someone who's willing to continue to learn and grow as the tools evolve and continually add new features. So that's the status of many security organizations. Understaffed, underskilled, probably underfunded. How do IT leaders address this situation? Many are seeking automation to reduce the need for hands-on keyboard responses to security incidents. Automation is an obvious solution, But the industry as a whole has a ways to go to truly have an automated response capability. The best automation platforms require a single vendor approach, which might require retooling and introducing yet another skills gap. Hardly the best answer when skills can walk out the door on 2 weeks' notice. I believe a better answer is to consider the services of a managed security service provider, or an MSSP. Even more specifically, consider first a managed detection and response, or MDR provider. An MDR service is a subcategory of an MSSP. Let's talk about MDRs and what they can do for you, then we'll discuss the financial impact and some strategies to make MDRs work within your budget. As the label implies, MDR services are focused on detecting security incidents and then responding to those incidents. Both of these functions can be subscribed to on different levels. MDRs actively monitor security information generated by your network and users, and then when an incident is identified, they take action to address the incident. I'll not go into too much more detail because what specifically happens in each of these service categories depend upon you and your needs. On the detection front, MDRs can provide coverage at times when you're understaffed, say overnight or on weekends. This will remove a significant burden from your staff as well as a cost, which we will use to build our business case. Using MDRs for off-hour coverage is a great way to get into the MDR service category, but I'll tell you, after years of doing this, after-hours monitoring will have the highest per hour rate of any of your service components. So the fixed cost of the MDR services are spread out over fewer hours, resulting in a higher rate. Also, the handing off of incidents between organizations when your staff comes on during normal business hours becomes kludgy. Most clients, when they look at the difference between after-hours monitoring and around-the-clock monitoring, opt for the full approach. So it's much easier, and the cost difference is not that great. One of the fantastic things that MDR bring to the table are their own SIEM, or SIEM, which stands for Security Information and Event Management. A SIEM is the aggregation tool that funnels logs and security information into a centralized data lake. The events are then analyzed through a defined set of correlations and even more frequently through automated intelligence and machine learning algorithms. These analytics provide the foundation for security cases and tracing events back to root causes. A SIEM is something that every organization should have, and it's included in your MDR service. If you already have a SIEM, you can hire an MDR that can monitor your SIEM. This will allow you to continue to get value out of your investment, but it does reduce the pool of potential MDR providers you have available to you. MDRs are typically better at detection than your own staff, and they have scale on their side. Their engineers see more threats per day than your team might see over an entire month. MDRs subscribe to multiple threat intelligence databases as well, so they have access to better security intelligence, making their detection capabilities superior to most organizations. Because MDRs see so many alerts, they also are very good at identifying false positives, reducing the load on your security team. Alert fatigue is one of the leading causes of cybersecurity waste, where team members stop checking various outputs because there's never anything actionable in them, until there is, and they miss it because they stopped checking weeks or months ago. On the remediation side, MDRs can take different approaches. If you don't want to give the service provider access to your network, you can simply have the MDR alert your staff when they see something requiring immediate attention. Because you're having an experienced security engineer triage the incident first, you'll reduce substantially the number of alerts your team needs to address. Providing access to some or all of your network resources can virtually eliminate the need for after-hours intrusions. Most organizations don't provide unlimited access, though, so a varying level of access is pretty common. The ability to respond to incidences immediately also reduces the incident impact, making recovery that much easier. Think of the difference between an immediate response versus a response that requires outreach to staff. Maybe the staff member on call takes 20 minutes to get logged in, assess the situation, and then start taking remediation action. That delay may be the difference just between another failed attempt and a publicly reported breach or an extended downtime on a critical system. Lastly, the response service can also include recovery assistance. MDRs on the short end can offer recovery consultations, informing internal teams on root causes, affected systems, and resolution procedures, and how to harden the network to prevent future risks. Or on the other end of the spectrum, the MDR may take a full hands-on role in the recovery, allowing your team to continue to manage their day-to-day priorities. MDRs give you your resources, confidence that they have support, lower the day-to-day stress of the job, and provide the expertise when needed, rather than you paying for that expertise to be on standby for when it's occasionally required. Okay, that gets us to the financial piece. MDRs are not free. You'll have to ask for additional funding or find room in your current budget. Of course, asking for additional funding on the merits described above is the most direct route to getting an MDR budget approved, but we all know that in an uncertain time, additional funding may not be viable. So let's talk about how to find space in your existing budget. Now, I can't get into the specifics of about your justification. I obviously don't know your particular circumstances, but I'd be happy to do so on an individual basis. Just reach out to me. I'll tell you how at the end of this video. However, here are some variables you should consider when putting together your justification. First, lower staff costs. Many organizations have staff monitoring security dashboards overnight in shifts. A typical arrangement is for an employee to take a week's worth of overnight shifts and then get some sort of benefit for the inconvenience, such as an extra day off a month or a pay bonus, etc. These added benefits for pulling all-nighters or being on call can be eliminated due to retaining an MDR. If you give additional time off, you may not view it as an incremental cost, but it is, and that should be added. The savings of that cost should be added to your business case. More lower staff costs can be obtained if you have dedicated resources responsible for monitoring security dashboards during the business hours. These resources are largely freed up after implementing an MDR. The resource would be limited to just looking at your most impactful alerts, eliminating virtually all the noise that drives inefficiency and wasted time. Even more lower staff costs can be found when you can hire at a lower staff level, at least as far as incident response is concerned. You don't need a high level of security engineer with experience of incident response when you're paying for that resource through your MDR. Much of that expensive experience of internal staff is wasted over the course of time. With an MDR, you're essentially getting that deep incident response and remediation expertise on retainer, which is far less expensive than keeping it on salary. I do want to make the point that you still need deep solution expertise on your internal team. MDRs do not manage your security tooling. That is still your role. You're still under control of your security posture. You're not outsourcing your security management in this model. There is a model for that, but that's more of a full-service MSSP model, not an MDR. Point solution costs are another variable. Your MDR will help you reduce your licensing cost. We've mentioned how MDRs will provide their own SIM. You can typically get dashboard access for visibility, but this is a large cost that you can avoid. Additionally, your MDR can help direct you over time to less expensive point solutions. They typically have recommendations for solutions that are less expensive than premium brands, but through their experience, they're confident in the solutions. They can even provide assistance in deploying and managing the new tools. Again, this gets into more of an MSSP model, but maybe just incrementally where it makes sense, rather than outsourcing your entire posture management. Next, insurance cost reduction. While this might not be in your budget, cyber insurance is getting more and more expensive. I was just speaking to a client the other day that saw a 60% increase in their insurance premiums even after they had added security capabilities required to be insurable. Make sure that you understand the impact of outsourcing the monitoring to a credible organization. This should have a substantial impact on your insurance premium, and you should get credit for that impact. Again, even if it's not directly out of your budget. MDR helps you meet your compliance obligations. Many regulatory frameworks require real-time security monitoring, and if they don't currently, they will shortly, as the trend seems to be increasing. MDR typically satisfies that requirement less expensively than internal resources. Additionally, your MDR can generate many of the artifacts and reports that you need much more efficiently than you could do yourself. Lastly, you'll be more secure. This one is hard to quantify, but more security in general is a good thing. It adds value to the organization by reducing downtime, reducing distractions, and increasing confidence in the capabilities of your security organization. There is value there, and its unquantified value can frequently be enough when you have established that MDR is just a small incremental increase through the variables above. So can MDR be free, or better said, budget neutral? Yeah, it can be, but you have to do some digging and make the case, and of course you have to be willing to give up the things that will fund your MDR service. But I believe most people can make the case. So now, if you're interested in an MDR solution or just learning more about anything on my channel, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is in the description of this video, and my firm actually provides free consultations, no obligation to you. We get paid by the solution providers if we find something that works for you. So we have multiple MDR providers in our portfolio. Our solution vetting process is always competitive and provides you with multiple alternatives. Anyway, enough of the commercial. Even if you're not looking for a solution, feel free to contact me. I'd love to hear from you. If you got some value out of this video, I'd really appreciate a like, a thumbs up below. That helps me reach more viewers like you, and thank you very much in advance for doing that. If you might want to return to this channel in the future, just hit the subscribe button. That will put my videos in your feed, and you can find your way back here at your convenience. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.